East Hampton Town, ARB, we are live.
Thank you very much, Jason. Thanks to LTV. Welcome to the East Hampton Town Architectural Review Board meeting of April 27th, 2023. I want to welcome everybody here today, and I'm just going to start our meeting here by saying a fond farewell to Eric Shantz, our beloved Assistant Planning Director and someone with whom I've had the pleasure to work for about 9 years now. He's moving over to become the Director of Housing. He's had a promotion, and we're going to miss you terribly. You've done such great work for us, and I am personally grateful to everything you've done to help me, especially as I transitioned into this particular job. You were really an anchor for me in that way, and I'm grateful. So anyway, let's all give Eric a round of applause. We are going to still call you up, so don't think you're rid of us so quickly.
I can't hide, I know.
Yeah, you can run, but you can't hide. Okay, so we don't have minutes, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine, totally fine. Okay, so we are.
Chair, I think we have minutes.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, on the first page.
On the third page.
First
Page. Forgive me, I just looked right at it. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 6th?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're off and running. We're often stumbling. Okay, this is our first application is a new singular wireless at St. Peter's Chapel. And Member Benson is recused on this one. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-103-6-23 and 24. I also want to just acknowledge Member Guittard is zooming in today. He had a family issue to take care of, so he's online with us. But we do have a quorum present in the public venue, so we're following all the rules. All right, so this one is mine. And this application has had a long and winding road. And tonight, as part of our settlement agreement, the Architectural Review Board will be voting to recommend the issuance of a final approval to the Planning Board for construction of a new personal wireless service facility consisting of a 70-foot monopole with 6 panel antennas and associated equipment, a 340 square foot fenced in ground level equipment compound and gate to the entryway. We are going to add to this the materials of the gate and fence and the dimensions of the gates and fence, and the gate that will be along the roadway. We'll need dimensions for the pillars and fencing. This has been a controversial application. I want to acknowledge that, but we're at this point now, and I'd like to move forward with this. So I'm going to move that we recommend to approve to the Planning Board this application. May I have a second, please? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Frank? Is Frank here?
He was.
He's muted.
He's muted.
That's
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
All right. I'd like it. Frankie.
Sorry, I was muted. Aye.
Okay, great. All right. So that's passed and carried. And I thank all our various council and the many hours that we've put into this hair-raising ride. And with apologies on some levels. Anyway, okay. Next up is, I've hidden my agenda now.
Here.
I've got it. Number 2 is beer. Thank you. Beer and smoke, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-19.
Oh, yes, it went by so.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's so fast. Have a good trip back. Okay. They were here and gone as if merely spirits. What a nightmare. Okay. Okay, we're just waiting for Member Benson to rejoin us. That was so fast. Okay, so beer and smoke, Suffolk County tax map number 300-197-2-11.1. Frank, this is yours. Is the representative for beer and smoke here? Is someone from if the applicant is not present? Okay, so we will not be reviewing this while the applicant is not present. Frank, I'm going to skip. Should I skip to you, or you want to go to Neil, Laura, and Neil Rose?
I would say just proceed with the agenda.
How about Sale Montauk? She's on.
Say again?
Sale Montauk, she's here. She's on Zoom.
Okay, but we're on street food on the green.
That's also Ocean Graphics.
So
Oh,
there's.
they're both ocean graphics. so
All right,
yes,
thank you.
yes.
I got you. Okay, so we're gonna skip to number 4 because the representatives for the item 2 and 3 on our agenda are not present. We'll deal with that at the end.
Oh,
You're here, but Ocean Graphics is not.
oh.
We don't want to entertain the application without the applicant present, so. Okay, number 4, 478 Westlake LLC, Sale Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Note number 300-6-3-6. That's mine, and the applicant is zooming in. Hi, what is your name?
Alexandra Ali.
Alexandra Ali.
Yes.
Welcome, Alexandra. Okay, so this is an application for a sign.
Yes.
For a, oh my goodness,
We're a sailing school and we do sailing charters as well.
sailing school. So, I'm sorry, I just raced forward here and I don't have my, here we go. Okay. This is on Westlake Drive at 478 Westlake, which is a compound of a couple of different businesses. So we ran into a couple of issues. Generally speaking, I have no problem with the sign. The sign I think is tastefully done. This is the sign that would be, it's a freestanding sign. We're going to try to be using the proper terms to describe signs these days. This is not a directory sign because it does not fit the description and size of a directory sign. It's a 1 foot by 6 foot sign. Directory signs have to be smaller. So we're calling this a freestanding sign, even though it looks kind of like a directory sign. And then if you could just scroll forward to the next one, this, as you see on the screen, is going to be on the along the roadway. And then on the dock on a piling is meant to be this sign, Sale Montauk Sailing School and Charters, which I think is a perfectly nice looking sign. I actually like the red. The problem I think we're having is we don't know who the piling belongs to. And isn't that part of our?
Yeah, I understand that there's multiple slips that this applicant rents, and I think it's for at a marina where there are presumably other tenants there that might use the dock. So I'd just like to have an indication of the proposed location of the sign marked on something so we could know where it's going and.
Right. Okay, so how can we advise the applicant about that? Because the survey that I have is hand marked, which is not something we accept. Generally, when a survey is submitted, it has to be, any markings on the survey have to be those of the surveyor. And in this instance, it makes sense to send in a copy of the survey with where you think the sign is going to go for the proposed work. But we need to have a copy that's stamped and sealed, stamped and has the apostille seal of the surveyor, so we know that the surveyor, that the survey is done professionally. So what should we be asking of them at this point, do you think, David?
So Eric, I guess I would ask you about this. For a dock approval, if it inadvertently changes the configuration of the dock, if I say that this belongs only to Sale Montauk, so it's potentially open to other people as well. So I'm trying to avoid doing an approval that would, trigger site plan potentially by reconfiguring the dock.
Would it require site plan?
The reconfiguration of the dock, if there's multiple tenants that were.
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. So should it go to site plan before?
No, I just want to make sure that they have those 4 slips and that that's where they have exclusive
Okay.
rights to those. And
So how do we ascertain that? That's what I've never
they
done
can
this.
mark it on the survey or put it with pictures or something. I've never encountered this at the ARB.
Right.
I've never done a sign for
Okay,
docs before, but there has to be, some level of specificity indicating that this is their designated area with the slips and, that we can confirm that. That's
Yeah, 'cause
allowed.
there is a signpost already located in front of our slip. We just wanted to add to a sign to it.
I don't think it's indicated on the survey. though.
yeah, I don't think that, well, it's handwritten
Right,
in,
it's not
yeah,
depicted. The
yeah,
other one
yeah.
is depicted.
yeah.
So the one by the street is depicted clearly, but the one,
This, you can't tell where it is. It's just an X. It's not like the
covered by an
piling.
X.
If you look on the screen, it says add sign above the slip down here where I'm
No,
circling.
we understand that,
Yeah,
but
we
see how the
understand
other
that,
one
but-
has the actual depiction by the surveyor?
Oh,
Right.
The
We
other
don't
one
know where the
doesn't.
piling is, the actual piling. We need to know where that is on the survey. So I think that that's going to have to be amended somehow. I'm sorry, we can't,
We can approve of the street one.
I think we could, yeah, I think we could approve the one on the street. And as a practical matter, the design of the other sign is, I don't know if the board has any other, I think that there's nothing wrong with that sign. I think it's a nice looking sign, frankly. But we can't really approve the one that's meant to go on the piling along by the slips until we know exactly which of those slips are let to you.
And how do we get that to you? How do
Yeah,
we-
that's a good question. I think we may have to get back to you on
So
that.
I could, I know the attorney that represented you in justice court, if you wanted to, communicate that directly to me or to David Filer, that's fine.
Okay, and then maybe you can get that back to us and then we'll try to get you on quickly because I think it's just an administrative matter at this point. I think, as a design review principle, we're okay. Frank, do you have any comments on this sign?
I do not. I agree with
Okay.
the assessment about it.
Okay, great. All right. So if you can get that to us, we'll try to get you on as soon as possible, okay?
Okay, yeah, so just so I'm clear, I just need to get to you a lease or just something proving that we rent those two slips?
Yes, indicating the location of the slip.
Right, the actual position of the slips on the survey and some
Okay.
demonstration that those are dedicated to your business so that we know precisely where the sign is going.
Okay, perfect.
The actual place of the sign, no?
Well, yes, I thought I was saying that those slips would be where the sign is going. Okay, anyway, show us the piling that you're planning to put the sign on.
Okay, so you want a picture of it? Got it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, a picture, all of this has to be on the survey
okay.
and marked on the survey by the surveyor. And then if you can provide other information on the, your lease agreement, that would substantiate it. It may be the only way you can do it. I don't know. We'll send you a follow-up letter with recommendations and David and I will put our heads together and try and get you a little more clear direction.
Okay.
It's a new problem for all of us, so we don't have a lot of information right now, but we'll get back
Okay.
to you as soon as, we'll get right back to you on this. I know you want to open up, so we'll try to get you moved right along.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay, well, I'm gonna,
Oh, yeah, well, it's here.
Frank has to leave early, so I'm gonna push his applications
no
up.
one here is- I mean,
Yes, I understand. Yeah. And I'd like him to be here for the ag overlays if we can.
Next.
Okay, all right, so beer and smoke, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-192-2-11.1. Will, you're here. Great, okay. Frank, this is yours.
Okay. This is an application for business signs in Wayne-Scott in what was formerly called Main Beach. The applicant has requested the following, a 10-foot wide by 2-foot high business sign above the entrance, totaling 20 square feet. And a 4-foot wide by 1-foot high double-sided directory sign on Montauk Highway, which is 8 square feet, for a total of 28 square feet. I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure if this qualifies as a directory sign or not, but we can talk about that as part of this. The proposed business signs are red lettering on white background with a black border. It's pretty straightforward. So at this time, I welcome the applicant to come forward and discuss the application.
Okay, he's here. Hi, Will.
How you doing?
Good, thanks. And you?
Not bad.
Good.
Yeah, these, we just call them a directory because that's their use. It's not gonna be classified as the 6x36 for a directory, but it's still within 32 total square feet with the two-sided freestanding and the one on the,
Can you just pull the mic a little closer to you?
Yep.
Thank you.
there you
Okay.
go.
Okay, so the square footage, is this a temporary sign? or
That's
is-
just a temporary one, yeah.
Okay,
What did that go up?
Probably 2 weeks ago or so.
I think they get 3 weeks for it.
Okay, yeah.
okay, so I think that
I don't know if this was one we were advised to put a temporary one up just because the scheduling on the permits was kind of pushed out.
okay. So I don't have any,
So my concern about all the signage at this complex is that some of the quote unquote directory signs, which are really freestanding signs,
Sure.
those were located partially in the right of way on town property. And I spoke to the other signs back onto the property.
Yeah, I saw they were working on those, yeah.
Yeah, literally this post was on the property, that one was off. So they have to be moved back, but then, it calls into question whether or not that's a legally allowable sign under the code. And
Sure.
it's, as you said, it's not a directory sign, it doesn't meet the compliance, the guidelines for that. So, we have to ascertain if that is part of the 32 square footage that they're allowed, or if those other businesses are open. So I'm hesitant to, approve something that I don't know the status of right now.
Sure.
So,
I know Barry's is under, and Abel's, I'm pretty sure is under as well, because their sign is smaller than the beer and smoke one.
we've got to start referring to them as freestanding signs instead of directory signs.
right, yeah,
Because
yeah.
directory signs don't count towards 32 square feet.
Right.
But the
Yeah.
freestanding signs would. So, my sense is that the sign, the picture that we have here of the proposed sign, I think would be okay. Do you think that we should wait on the freestanding sign, David, until we can
Yes, we
resolve
have to
these other
confirm that it's
issues?
located on
Okay,
the property and
so is it okay to bifurcate these and
Yeah.
to me, I think I'd like to be able to let the business put something on, if we have no objections to the sign on the building, which I don't, that we could go with that and then wait to see how this other thing falls
Yeah,
out in terms
and
of
this is
property
kind of a
line.
tricky one because you
Yeah.
have two other tenants
I
on there
understand.
and,
Could
Front
that whole,
porch.
there's a whole row of them.
yeah.
Say, oh,
Could we look at the survey?
oh yes, could you put the survey up, please?
Well, what kind of business is this?
It's like a beverage distributor.
Oh, it's a beverage store.
I
Okay.
believe so, yeah.
Walk in and you smoke and drink.
I think they have a walk-in humidor and there's what that is.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's an interesting name. It sure tells you what,
It's
tells you what's happening.
Straight to the point.
Straight to the point. No gray area. Okay, so here's our survey. Now, see, we have problems with these, magic marker. If this is just meant to be an informational, I get that, but if it's,
I think it's marked on.
It is
there,
marked,
actually.
it's just highlighted.
it's just highlighted, okay.
There should be a survey without annotations to it that the applicant, I believe, delivered to our office
I do have it.
yesterday.
We have
I don't know if that's
we have it online?
Same, except it's.
put on the screen.
Exactly, and it has the raised seal.
Okay, that's the thing that we need. We need to have a record, and I had the same problem with the
Sure.
previous application of, what has been surveyed by the surveyor.
Right.
And it's perfectly reasonable and helpful for you to take a copy of that and show us.
Right.
But as the formal submission, there has to be a,
Got it.
a signed, sealed
Sure.
survey.
So I can't really see that very well, and
Can you
nor can I
enlarge
see
that
it
a little
even in
bit
front of
more?
me.
The photo, it's grainy.
Is that the?
It is grainy,
Yeah.
and it's hard to see even on the copy that I have in front of
You
me,
want
but
this original one?
sure.
Oh. that
Because
would be
it's hard
helpful.
to see whether, as in the case of the other signs that are on this property that were recently moved, whether it's just even slightly off for outside the property line, which it's so close to the sidewalk that that would seem to be the case,
Right.
but it's hard to see on this. Is it here? It looks like it's within the property line.
Tells
Huh?
by
It's blue
By inches.
by inches.
Yeah, it's, what's the red?
The sidewalk? No.
That's the grass strip.
Okay.
That's the sidewalk.
Okay.
It appears on the survey, I don't know, Frank, did you see this? It looks on the survey as though it's on the property.
Yep.
Just by a,
I did see that, and it does appear that the directory sign is within the property limits.
yeah, the freestanding
Freestanding sign.
What Diane said.
Yeah.
The other point is there's lighting on that sign,
Right.
so that has to be removed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's been there forever, so I'm not sure. It's like.
Yeah, but this hasn't been approved ever,
Gotcha.
so there's, like, on the property card, there's sign violations going back to the 90s.
Sure.
Property, so,
Gotcha.
you know, if we're gonna keep improving them, we gotta make, like, do it the right way.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah, we have, right, and that's a busy place there with lots of businesses, so we're gonna try to get a comprehensive,
Did they apply for permitting on those instead of removing them, or?
No, not yet. I was unaware that Beer and Smoke was coming in for this sign when I talked to him.
Okay.
I said start with the Levain and Health SOS ones and move those back.
Right.
And then this popped up too with the
Right.
same concerns and that. You know, I would like to know the dimensions of the top pole too, what the lights are. It seems.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
So I don't have the exact dimensions, but the finials there are above 7 feet.
okay.
Are
that's
right
too
above
big.
7 feet, and I don't have where the top of the gooseneck is, but that would be,
Right,
I think, at least 8 feet.
yeah, that's too tall, yeah, that'll have to be adjusted, but, well, that's, I don't know, that's not, this is not something Will can do, right? I mean, that's something we have to take up with the landlord.
So yeah, that's part of the larger.
Yeah,
thing. I'll
I mean-
coordinate with Mr. Young and that,
Sure.
and reach out to the tenants.
Right.
But these are all the things that we're assessing when we look at these things, so. So maybe we can just make a motion to approve the sign that's on the building. Frank, are you amenable to that?
Actually, I kind of am not. I don't know how other people feel, but I don't know if this is meant to be reflect a mundane retail experience, but to me I'm just not very, in the context of the other signage on the lot, to me, this one sticks out in terms of, first of all, the white lettering. I would prefer to see something like just not something that pops as much as the white. I'd prefer to see something that's either off-white
Do
or
you mean
blue.
red lettering? Did you say white lettering?
No, the white background.
Okay,
That's one thing.
Okay.
Perhaps if you were going to stick with the red lettering, might suggest something like a blue background or something, a navy background with a white border.
well, that would be nice.
It's just,
Very
I-
stark.
I don't know quite how to say that. It just doesn't seem very developed to me, unless that was the intention for it to look that way.
I mean, we were sent the artwork. It's, just to kind of be an eye grabber for people passing by. And the temporary signs don't actually reflect the correct red. It's just was a quick temporary, it's a banner print, so it's a little bit brighter, and that's a little bit more of the red. It's more of like a true red.
Right. But I take Frank's point about the contrast, that might be a way to soften that a little bit and still get the,
It's monstrous.
It's monstrous and it looks a little strip mallish. I mean, there's no white, I don't think, on any of those buildings. They're all sort of shingly, darker colors. It certainly stands out, which is what they may have wanted, but I think it stands out at the expense of cheapening the architecture.
Yes.
I agree.
That's a good point.
That building 1 story, like the part that extends above it is the roof there, because it appears that part of the sign might be above the roof.
Oh, really? Oh, my. Well,
I'm for one, I'm not willing to, I'm not in a position to, or would approve this as presented. I'd want to see
Okay.
some revision.
What's the other sign to the left over the doors?
Barry's Boot Camp.
Oh,
That's been their problem.
what does that look like? Can we see that better?
That's just full finished, it's supposed to look like a wood background. That's been there probably 15, 20 years already.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's not offensive.
yeah, I think the ground on that, the background on that is a little easier on the eye. I don't think it would, I don't think it would, take away from the, you still be able to read it. The red lettering is
Sure.
dynamic, but I think it would soften the contrast if you could come in with a background that was a little more muted.
Sure.
Is the name of the business Walk-In Beer and
I
Smoke?
believe so. I
Like
mean, what is it on?
You believe so, or you are, I mean, you should
Walk-In
know
Beer and
that.
Smoke Core, like LLC or?
Oh, beer and smoke, beer and smoke.
Just curious as to. It's not it. The name, as opposed to it being like indicative of what's being sold.
Excuse me.
I think the sign's too tall. I think that's the problem.
Which sign?
The beer and smoke sign, it's a very
One on
tall.
the street?
No, the one on the
Oh.
building. It's too tall.
Well,
There's
that-
too much
yeah.
white space.
I think it's the white that makes it look
Yeah.
like it's higher because I think that structure is what holds all the signs on that.
And I don't think it's above the roof. I think that trellis goes into the.
Trellis,
Yeah, that is, it's, they have a DBA file, there's beer and smoke. It's in the
Okay,
business.
yeah, it's a DBA.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. I know they had another corporate name, but
Yeah, I'm going to agree with what Frank's evaluation was. I think the white is too stark. And yes, it certainly brings your eye to it, but not necessarily in a good way for me.
right.
So yeah, I think another ground would be a better
Okay,
choice.
just maybe like a softer background, even just like gray out the background or a little.
I think gray
tan
would
or
be
something,
good.
or-
Gray might work nicely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Shingle.
Or
Yeah,
dark
because
blue,
if you look at it even on the street sign,
Right.
ABOS and
Mhm.
it
It doesn't, it's not, yeah,
And
it's
again,
not
part of
harmonious.
not
the
harmonious, which is our whole
those
song.
temporary banners are very bright white too, so that's not
Mhm.
helping, but
yeah.
Why don't you just come back with a different background and we'll try to get you on quickly,
All
okay?
right.
Because I know these businesses want to open, so we're
Sure.
going to try to give folks a little bit of a leg up in that way.
absolutely.
But if you can come back with a more muted ground.
Okay.
And because I think the design of it is fine, it's the colors that people are having problems with.
Sure.
Am I correct in that
Yes.
summation? Frank, would that be?
Well, is the title above the main store going to remain Walk-In Beer and Smoke? Or, because that's not the name of the establishment?
The name of the establishment is
Isn't the name is,
Smoke, but I don't know why the walk-in is there.
right, so I'm kind of
Well,
objecting
I mean,
to,
there's the Wainscot
saying
Walk-in, which is the medical
walk-in-
facility just 2 doors down, but maybe it's-
I don't know, can
Smoke
we
walk-in.
object can we object to the fact that the name itself isn't the legal name of the building?
No.
No,
No, I mean, I take your point. I would like there to be
Fewer
less
words.
lettering on the sign, but I think they're entitled to, advertise their business in that way if they want to.
Yeah, it's like ABOS paints or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, give us a
It's
couple,
just the format of that linear sign there. It's
yeah,
just-
maybe give us a couple more designs with walk-ins less prominent, if that seems to be the,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the way it is on the double-sided sign on the
Oh, yeah.
street,
it's
Is
better.
better,
Yeah,
frankly.
Walk-in cigar humidor, yeah,
beer and smoke, walk-in cigar.
Or humidor.
yeah.
Yeah, actually.
No?
Yeah, it's more clarifying too.
Yes.
And beer and smoke is more prominent, because if beer and smoke is the name of the business, the first thing you see is walk-in.
Sure,
And I take Frank's point, it's a little confusing,
gotcha.
I mean, it's up to them, obviously, but That's what we would recommend. Maybe rework the bottom sign into the top, or, you
Okay.
know, come back with a couple different ideas
Sure.
and mute that background, and we'll try to get you on for the next meeting.
Great.
Okay.
The next one too.
Yes. What is that? I'm confused.
Street food number 3.
Thank you. Street food on the green. Item number 3, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-49-1-22. Chip, this is yours, and this is Will. Again.
Can you bring up some of the photos, please? I'm going to start. This is an application for 2 signs, one on top of another, totaling 20 square feet for an Asian food themed restaurant at the edge of the circle in Montauk. That's the building. The restaurant is in 2 adjoining storefronts directly across from the Carl Fisher office building. So the building is in the Tudor style and probably vintage Carl Fisher architecture back to the beginning of that development. The top proposed sign is 9 feet 3 inches long and 1.5 feet high. The lower proposed sign is 7.2. Like the previous application, the applicant has already put temporary signs up that sort of mimic what the final signs would be. The new signs would be faux wood grain background with raised orange letters, PMS 141C. The 2 banners installed mimic the new proposed signs pretty closely. The old and new signs seem a little large and overwhelm the building facade. Now, the new signs would be directly under a pre-existing long shadow box that appears to have once lit whatever the signs were that were there. The existing lighting attached on the facade of the building is an exposed jumble of conduits, electrical boxes, and light fixtures. The lighting for the temporary signs is on the top of that little roof, that little winter enclosure, and it's a spotlight that shines up on those 2 temporary signs. I think we will want to see a much better lighting plan than that respects the architecture of this building and meets the code. I don't really have issues with the signs. I think they could be a tad smaller. Will, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. I mean, the existing lighting there was from the previous tenant. The signs are to kind of mimic when O'Murphy's was in there years ago.
Yeah.
They had a similar setup. These will be, the letters will be like a dimensional raised letter. The background will be carved out. The finish will be kind of close to the brown of the building. And the letters aren't really orange. They're like a yellowy kind of cream color, like what O'Murphy's
The
had.
sample looked a little orange. Here it is.
This doesn't look orange at all, so.
Yeah. It's like a mustard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the color's fine. I think the signs are fine. They seem to fill that entire space between the top of the door and this lighting box.
I mean, the concept was to kind of hide some of the mess of conduit that's there.
Right, which is a problem. Yeah.
Because I don't know if you were on site before that banner was up, but that's covering up a lot of junction boxes.
Yeah. So clearly the light that's on that little roof has to go. You can't have a spotlight, but then there's so much wiring on that building. They really need to address cleaning that up. They just added conduit and electrical boxes and all. And then there's these 4 spotlights that are the black things on either side that come out and shine down. And this is only one storefront. They have a second storefront to the right, which has the same kind of hanging spotlights on them. So I have no problem really with the sign, depending what the other board members say, but the electrical thing there is a mess, and that's a problem.
Well, the electrical thing is a mess. We can't have uplighting, but also, I mean, this is not anything to do with the sign. The light that exists to shine on the sign is on this structure that I'm not even sure is permanent or actually has approval.
Yeah. So what would take so a while to understand is see where it says street food. Above that is essentially an upside down window box.
Yeah.
And at one point, I think there was lighting in that window box that shone down on these 2 signs because the building next to it has the same window box. So I don't know where Will's obligation stops and starts and where the landlord is, but
Could that be used for like an LED?
Yes, it'd be very, it would be like the thing we did in Wainscot.
Right, right,
Black,
right.
Or just the strip, you know,
Yeah.
that you use
Right.
for other download lighting
Absolutely, yeah.
on single-sided and double-sided signs, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, we're not proposing any lighting with this right now. I'm not sure, they didn't even mention it, the applicant.
They didn't mention it because it already is there.
Right,
Right, but we would need to approve that lighting as part of the sign, you know, the lighting is part of the whole.
or
Package.
just be remove the uplight.
Yes, you would need to remove the uplight,
Sure,
because that's not
Right.
compliant.
Yeah, we've dealt with that before. where it's
Yeah,
existing
no, I know you
something.
have, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you just explain to them that they
Right.
can't have the
But what-
lights that they have now to
I
light
told
the
her
sign.
this first minute I went there, I said that
Oh,
you're gonna
good.
have to get rid of that.
Yeah,
Great.
once they remove the uplight, they would need to put
Yeah.
lighting for the signs. It would be great if they put it in that window box.
I mean, my sense is that the words street food are huge, those, I feel like that's really, really big.
Well, that banner, I think, is a little bit larger than the actual sign.
Uh-huh,
It was just done that way because of the way we had to install it.
okay.
So is this
Yeah,
the rendering?
That's the rendering, yeah,
Yeah.
which is.
So it's
a little bit Smaller.
9 feet long and a foot and a half high.
I mean, I would recommend not necessarily changing the size of the background, but just reducing the font size 10% across
That's where
the
I was
board.
headed.
It's
Yeah.
just a little big. Don't make it reduced to the point where there's too much white space. But yeah, I think that the street food in particular could be
Could be a little
both of them.
smaller.
Just
Yes.
reduce the font a little bit.
That's where I was headed.
I have a question about the background. So it's like you've got this gradient that gives it the look of wood. What is this printed on?
It's not printed, it's an actual sandblasted HDU sign, which is a sign foam, and they carve it out and faux finish it, so it looks like a sandblasted wood sign.
So it looks like wood. Okay.
Yes.
What is this like this? Does it look from the side? Because I am kind of interested in about the details because it's like it's right at kind of right above street level.
Yeah, the whole,
Is
the
this gonna
signs and
be-
everything are painted to match, so it'll just
So
be.
like the side of it, is it like what's the thickness of it? Is it? I don't want it to look like I guess a couple of things. I don't want it to look like it's just some kind of 1/8 of an inch thick thing that's just kind of there. I think it needs to have some thickness to it.
Yeah, it's 1.5 inches. Yeah, and these are pretty substantial, expensive signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like
Well made.
wood. It looks
Yep.
like wood from the side.
And it'll be
Absolutely.
universal. But he's concerned that there'll be like a white strip on the
Nope.
side, I think.
No, they're fully
Okay.
painted, the edges
Yeah.
Okay.
will be
Okay.
painted to
Um,
match.
And the mounting, is it going to be like perpendicular or is it going to be angled down somewhat?
No, it'll be perpendicular. The banner's just angled.
The banner is angled, which
Oh,
gives
I
you the
see.
sense that
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
falling forward.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just, again, because of all the way that it was, there's no structure there to hang a banner.
yeah.
So,
Right.
Okay.
All right. All right. Well, again, if you can just come back to us with, maybe try a smaller font on that. I think generally speaking, people are agreeable to this. And
Yeah.
give us the lighting, proposal, so that we know how it's going to be lit.
okay,
Okay.
sure. So just adjust the font maybe a little bit. I mean, because
Mhm.
right now, I think it's about 14 inches high. I'm just concerned about the negative space in there by doing that, but
I don't think you have to take it down too much, just a little bit. I
Yeah.
just think it feels like it fills the entire sign now. I think you just give it a little bit, shrink it down a little bit.
right.
A little more subtle.
Yeah.
Well, just because there's no border to the sign where it's sandblasted, it's like a relief.
Right?
So it doesn't have that framed effect. So the letters don't actually read like they're pushing to the edge of it because it's like that material's blasted out. So those letters are dimensional out of the background. So it's,
Right.
I think it's still,
Just find a way to make it a little
I
smaller.
just feel like
That's all.
there's too much,
However you do it.
just a smidge down, I
Right.
think, a little bit.
okay,
Or
Okay.
increase the kerning of it,
right.
and then if the landlord would work on a lighting plan that incorporates those old boxes,
Yeah,
that
we
would be
need
great.
to
Right.
be reassured that those lights aren't going to be reused in this way.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, and I don't know
the
if-
temptation will be too great to just use what's there.
Sure, right. Yeah, I don't know what else is in there, if it's half of
Yes.
it's dead or not, or
Yeah.
what, but
Okay.
it's, you know.
Okay,
there's
just
been a
tell them we
million.
need that to approve the sign. Okay.
Just, what do we
them
need?
along.
Just, either the removal of it or, because they might not want to put a light above it, I don't know.
Right. Well, they can put code compliant lighting,
Right,
but they'd have to remove the light that's there now.
right, but removal of that would be
Yes,
sufficient.
which you know,
more or less, yeah.
and I know you've advised them, but
Sure,
we need to goose them along to do that.
perfect,
Okay.
great.
All right, great.
All right,
Thanks, Will.
thanks.
Okay, fences, walls, gates, and berms, number 5, Laura and Neil Rose, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-176-3-9. Are the applicants or an applicant's representative here? Are you Ms. Rose?
I'm Laura Rose.
Hi, Laura, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Frank, this is yours.
Okay, if we could bring up the photos, and I have an annotated survey. I've marked on the survey where the heights of the fence around it. Okay. This is an application for fencing that has already been constructed around the perimeter of a residential lot on Ocean Road in Amagansett Dunes, near the end of the street just off Marine Boulevard. There are various fencing conditions around the property. Most of the fencing is non-compliant in excess of the maximum allowable height. Facing the street, there is wood fencing that starts at 4 foot 2 inches near the house entrance, but rises to over 6 feet as it runs parallel to the street, rising to 6 foot 11 inches in one spot above grade. Part of this fence is screened with some planting, but by and large, this is an exposed fence as seen in the photographs. For the side yards, on the north side of the wood fence runs along the property line down a hill, ranging in height from 6 feet to 7 feet. Just check if that's, sorry, I can't see the photos you're showing. Along the east lot line, which is the rear yard, there are 2 fences running along the property line, a 7-foot deer fence with poles that reach up to 10 feet in some locations, which sits next to a 4-foot chain link fence. So there are 2 fences. The southern lot line continues the same type of dual fencing, but halfway becomes the taller wooden fence. The fencing around this property is excessively tall. Facing the street, the wooden fence is not in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. Not only is the fence too tall, it is already sitting high up on a hill overlooking the street, which makes it even more imposing. The use of ACQ lumber means the fence will not age to a more natural color, such as cedar or mahogany. The applicant is required to have a 4-foot fence in the front yard to surround the pool, but I'm disappointed the applicant didn't decided not to keep the deer fence closer to the pool so that it wouldn't be so imposing to the street. That decision speaks to me of creating a larger enclosed front yard to the detriment of the neighbors. Fencing like this facing the street seems rare, if non-existent, in this neighborhood. Fencing that I did observe on the street in the front yard was deer fencing that is completely transparent except for typical thin fence posts. I recommend this board not approve the fencing as built. At this time, I would invite the applicant to discuss this application.
Okay, right, but just before then, I want to acknowledge a letter from a resident of 32 Ocean Lane, Jane Maring. David, do I have to read this whole thing, do you think?
Your discussion, I mean,
Excuse me?
has it been forwarded to all the members?
Yes, the
Yes.
board members, have you all had the time to see Jane Maring's comments regarding this fence? She's a resident on this street.
It's also in the file.
It's in the file. Okay.
No, you don't.
All right, I think that's sufficient. Okay, Ms. Rose.
Hi, well, thank you for hearing me today, and thank you to Julie. Thank you for helping me with the application. I was not aware that all of the fencing was a question today. I thought just the front fencing was on the agenda, but I'm happy to address as much as I can. So we're seeking ARB resolution approval for the 6-foot ACQ wood shadow box fence in the front yard of the house, as the pool is in the front yard of the property, to provide for pool fence requirement, deer fencing protection, visual enhancement from the road, and security and privacy from the road. If you'll indulge me, I'd like to walk through the process of how we arrived at this 6-foot ACQ fence. We began by applying for a 250 square foot kitchen addition to our home. And during the application process, we learned that our existing septic system would be within 5 within the 5-foot setback from the house, and therefore was required to be relocated and upgraded to the new nitrogen septic system in order to obtain any new building permit. With the help of engineers and the ZBA, we designed the new system, which required it to be installed by wrapping around the front yard and the side yard of the property. This also includes wrapping around the pool that was already in existence. With this configuration, we were granted a permit for septic installation as well as a building permit for the new addition. Once we completed the septic installation and received the green stamp of approval, we were fast approaching the summer season and would be removing the pool cover. Knowing that any pool must be protected by a minimum 4-foot fence, we then quickly installed a 4-foot chain link fence to provide the safety. As the building permit for the addition was granted around this time, a separate request for the fence permit was missed. For this oversight, I'd like to apologize. Now I'd like to walk through the process of replacing the 4-inch high chain link fence to the 6-foot high ACQ wood shadow box fence in the property. In the application, I tried to show many photographs of all of our attempts. I don't know if you have the application with you.
Yes.
So, okay. In order to complete the installation of the new nitrogen removing septic system with its required tanks and leaching fields, the previous landscape and fence around the pool was removed. The original house was built as per survey with the pool pronounced into the front setback. Additionally, the pool area is at a higher elevation than the road, creating a large slope. If you see the pictures of the cleared area, I don't know which pictures you're able to see. Yes, thank you. Or maybe the one before, but that's fine. The landscape's removed and you can see the new leaching fields. There's a few other photographs. And the slope, yes, well, it's hard to see from there, but yes, there's, would you like me to hand you pictures that are clear?
No, it's not necessary. Thank you.
Okay, so you can see that there are green stakes showing where the leaching fields are, and you can see the slope of the dune there, as well as the proximity to the road.
So am I to understand that you dug into the dune to create this?
No, the dune is there. The septic system needed to be laid on top. There was tanks that were up by the driveway side. Then there's leaching fields that it's on the survey that wrap around in front.
Yep.
And then climb up the dune and land all around like around that swimming pool where those green stakes are. So then after the septic system was installed and approved, we had to replace the pool fence as quickly as we possibly could, but we had restrictions as far as the plantings were going. Due to the planting restrictions, we were prohibited from planting trees with root systems within 10 feet of the leaching fields that surround the pool area. Nothing with very deep roots can affect those leaching fields. As a result, we could not install trees inside the new fence area to provide visual deterrence to the deer, as well as to provide a barrier and privacy from the road. In an effort to meet the pool fence safety code requirement, we installed a 4-foot high chain link fence. However, we soon found out that this 4-foot high fence did not provide protection from the deer, as they would come right over up to the top and like leap right over.
Right.
Consequently, we installed an 8-foot high deer fence, the 2-inch wire mesh adjacent to the chain link fence in hopes that that would stop the problem and meet all of the codes. So there's another photograph up close to show you both the chain link and the deer fence. That's the chain link. There's the chain link with the deer fence above it. I don't know if you can see the high post. And that's the exposure from, oh, sorry.
There.
Yes, there.
David,
Frank
I'm
took the
gonna
pictures
tilt that a little bit.
Okay, and then
Great, thank you. And if there's any way of zooming in on these pictures, it would be great.
They're hard to
I have
see.
some color copies if you want me to.
No, it's really, it's hard.
Better if she does it on the screen. This way the public can see too.
So you can see that we planted these Tortolusa junipers on the outside because that's away from the green stakes where the leaching fields are. And those will of course get, sorry?
I need to interrupt, and I'm sorry to do this, but you'd said that, because I think it's important to what you're showing here, you said that you cannot plant within 10 feet of the leaching fields?
You can plant, but you can't plant anything with a root system. Like I can plant many tall grasses. Grasses don't have the deep roots.
What about those trees on the other side of the 4-foot deer link fence?
Those are within, those are fine because they're beyond the 10 feet of the leaching field.
But can we go back to the survey? Because I'm confused about then the location of where's the leaching field? Because what I'm looking at, like, to the left and down from the wood deck, that appears to be right at the fence. Where is that not?
The
Where?
leaching, I'm sorry, if I could show you a survey. Do you have the survey with the leaching fields?
It's right in front of it, isn't it?
On screen.
But can you see the leaching fields on there? Yes. or
Yeah,
no?
isn't that where it says 5, 6, 7, 8?
Correct, correct.
So isn't there planting right next to the wooden fence
No,
of like
that's-
number 8?
No, because there's planting on the outside of the fence and then there's just tall grasses, but there's nothing with a root system.
So so on the outside of that fence, you're telling me those small trees don't have a root system?
No, they do. Whatever's on the outside is within the 10 feet. They're not going to interfere with the leaching field.
It's outside the 10 feet.
She's saying it's
But
outside.
they
the
can't be. Look at the location of that leaching field of 7 and 8. It's right there on the fence,
I see.
unless the survey's inaccurate. Sorry, I should let the applicant go forward, but I'm left confused about this.
Because clearly.
I
Well,
see, here's
I'm
7.
I don't know how to, I know that when we planted with the landscaper, we were very, very, concerned about those root systems. So everything should be outside of the 10 feet. We spent a lot of time, effort, and resources to do the leaching field. I don't want to compromise it in any way.
Right, I understand. I just think that Frank's observation is that it may be within the 10 feet. So anyway, let's just keep going because
Yeah.
we'd like to hear you out, but if you could just continue.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so you saw the pictures of the situation. So after that summer of living in the condition for a while, we could see how visibly unappealing this setup was from both the road as well as from the pool area. There's a picture again with the house with the from the street with the chain link and the deer fence above. We felt that this particularly those passersby, and it looks like a little league field with the chain link and the deer fence above, are very unattractive. In addition to the unattractive nature of this configuration, it did not allow for any noise control, privacy, or security from the road. People walking by can see up into the pool area. Ocean Lane is also a very active road in the season, as it is a walking and driving thoroughfare to the beach access 9A. From the road, passersby can see directly into the pool area, and as the house is a salt box with the bedrooms downstairs, it's possible to look up towards the first floor bedrooms of the house, thereby creating a legitimate need for privacy. In order to remedy all these concerns and not negatively impact the new septic system, we removed the chain link along with the added deer fence, and in its place erected an ACQ wood shadow box fence running parallel to the street at 6 foot high to serve as pool safety, deer protection, buffer, and to enhance the view from the street. Then there's pictures you can see there where the deer fence is still there, but those are just the posts to indicate that at that height from the pool deck where I'm standing for the photo, you can see the road, but you can see where you wouldn't see people's faces right beyond it. There's another photograph with the flag in front of the house that shows more of the way the grass is growing in the season. Maybe back, maybe the other way. I'm sorry, going the other direction. There should be another one with one more for that. No, okay. I have it here. Anyway, the grasses do grow very tall right now. If Frank, if you were able to go recently, I'm sure the grasses were all cut down before the season, but they do grow pretty tall, sometimes 6 to 8 feet tall, and that would cover the fence.
Right, well, you may live here just for the season, but everyone else, at least on the board, lives here year-round and has to live with it when the grasses are cut.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you, Frank.
Well, I would advise you to move on, Frank.
Okay, so did you have anything more, Ms. Rose?
Okay, well, just in closing, The use of AC wood, which is the material for the shadow box fence, has the added benefit of being both durable, natural, and fitting with the neighborhood and its rustic character, as it will gray out over time. Additionally, the shadow box design is attractive on both sides, the one facing the road as well as the side facing the house. This design also allows for air and privacy. Together, as the landscape matures, this 6-foot-high fence will only impact the neighborhood in a positive manner, as it will blend in naturally with the beachy feel of the Amagansett Dunes neighborhood, as it meets the requirements for pool safety, a barrier from animals, and a visual enhancement from the road toward the house, all the while providing privacy in the pool area and first floor bedrooms from the road below. It is our hope that the committee will accept these factors and circumstances for ARB resolution approval of this fence at 12 Ocean Lane. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your very thorough presentation. I'm just going to read quickly here to you what the purpose is in the code 255-1131 regarding fences, walls, gates, and berms, because this will help you to understand what our criteria are, which are very different from what your needs are or your desires are. With the recent rapid growth of the town has come a proliferation of high berms, fences, and walls, especially in residential areas. While these structures often provide a means for the property owner on which they are located to achieve privacy, the benefits achieved are often outweighed by the public harm done. Setbacks, siting of massive or opaque structures close to property lines and roads defeats the light and air bases for required yard setbacks imposed upon other structures. Historic and rural character. The presence of such structures diminishes the visual attributes of the town by obscuring long vistas and views of natural and man-made features basic to the town's character, including historic buildings set close to roads, and by creating a walled-in urban look, which we're trying to avoid. Safety. By destroying sightlines and eliminating open areas alongside streets and roadways, such structures can make intersections more dangerous, increase the hazard to pedestrians and animals, and create blind driveways whenever they appear. In addition, where legitimate needs for privacy exist due to proximity to streets or other dwellings, for example, it can usually be achieved with hedges, shrubs, or other living fences carrying little of the negative impacts set forth above. It is thus prudent to place restrictions on the size and location of berms, fences, and walls, and to subject certain of the same to a reasonable level of review and scrutiny by local agencies in order to ameliorate the effect which they would otherwise produce individually and collectively on the town. It goes on. So part of, I think, the problem that we're running into with your application is that in the front yard, we don't permit 6-foot. We can approve 6-foot fences, but we generally do not. And yours is built on a berm, so it raises it even higher. So it's not really, the effect of it from the street is that it's much higher than 6 feet. So I don't know, I would be disinclined, and I know that Frank has sort of rejected all of your proposal. I'll be done in a minute and I'll give you a chance to respond, but you gotta let us talk. You've had the mic for a while.
Thank you.
Anyway, I think we're gonna have to ask you to go back and rethink this, that if you need fencing in the front, that we would be more inclined to have that deer fencing, which is the mesh, something that is opaque, transparent, completely transparent. That's assuming the board would permit 6 feet in the front yard, which is unusual. We don't generally do that. And I'm thinking because it's on a berm, that would probably not go. You're probably gonna have to go with something lower than that. And the other, all the other fencing, in terms of the chain link fence that you've put up for pool safety, generally, chain link isn't considered as safe for the pool because it can be climbed. There are little toe holds for, generally it's kids you're trying to keep out of pools, and they can climb over those chain link fences. So I'm not sure that was a good choice to begin with. I think maybe you should take another look at this and rework it. Frank, did you have any specific recommendations for Ms. Rose at this point that she could take away from here?
Well, I think the easier ones are, we could start with the backyard. I think it needs to conform to the 6-foot limit. We've got some very high deer fence post, let's, keep it to 6 feet, keep the post to 6 feet. I would say right now we have 2 fences going on. There's a 4-foot fence chain link, and then there's a 6-foot. So I don't see any need for the 4-foot fence if we're going to have a 6-foot fence right next to it. Yeah, I think that's the easy one.
I think, we're talking about a 1/4 acre property here. You have massively overdeveloped and created hardships for yourself because you've put so much on this property, including a pool in your front yard. I don't think it's our obligation to resolve your problems the way you've developed the property. And, putting a fence on top of a berm is not allowed on the code. So,
It's the dune, right?
well, it's a berm or a dune, but.
Yeah, it's elevated.
But for a 1/4 acre property, I don't think we've seen anything like this in a long time. And I understand your septic problems and all that, but those aren't our problems. They're your problems.
Well, the septic is required, and it's great that you've updated that because you're in a very sensitive water area. So we need our septic to be upgraded because our water is in peril, frankly. So that's all great. But it's one resolution has created a host of other problems, and I think it would have been. I think you went ahead and built these things without realizing what our code said. You would have been better off to consult the code before you went ahead and made these changes. So I think what we'll have to do is just consider this incomplete. We'll send you a follow-up letter and list some recommendations of how you might be able to achieve some of the things you're trying to.
May I ask a few questions or?
Sure.
Thank you. To address the backyard of the 6-foot limit with the posts and the 2 fences, we put the 4-foot chain link fence as initial pool enclosure and felt that was stronger than this 2-inch wire mesh fence. So if we needed to take one down, which would be preferable? Because the wire fence is less secure, I would believe, than the chain link.
It's
have a code compliant pool fence.
right. I don't believe a chain link fence is code compliant for.
I think I read that it was, but okay, I will check.
Yeah, let's check on that. And, so we're not sure, but we're thinking that chain link is not code compliant for that. So let's find out what you need for the pool fence and go from there.
Okay.
The building department can tell you that.
Yes.
And then in terms of massively overdeveloped, John, the pool was there when we purchased the house and we were very grateful for that because as you know, pools are not so easy to have in the dunes, but it was there before we purchased it. So I don't feel we overdid it. We were very grateful for it.
What triggered the updated septic addition?
The addition.
I'm sorry?
You installed a
The
addition.
kitchen addition, I think, right?
Upstairs, the house is a salt box, so we increased the upstairs by 250 square feet, which is under the maximum of the building site, allowable buildable.
No, I understand. There's.
That's what triggered the septic upgrade. Yeah.
Right.
So so you said that you didn't put the pool in,
No, it was there. We purchased the house in 2000 and
but where was the fence?
so the fence was behind that.
The fence, when you purchased the home,
Would have had to.
would have had to have a pool fence. What was the
Right.
fencing?
That was on top of the deck with a very narrow passageway to around the perimeter of the pool. We had then asked for a variance later than that to move the fence down with a small deck, and we were approved for that.
So I think what we should do internally also is I would like to see so there was a variance granted to move the fencing. So I would like to know if the location of what was built, at least in the location of the fence, conforms to what was granted for the building permit and the variance granted. Or whether it's closer to the street.
Yes.
So why are they?
Well, I have to go back and look through the file, but I know there was a variance. It was mostly for some of the other structures on the property, but the fence was included. I'm not sure if it's in the exact location that they posted here. But yeah, there was a variance application, not a variance, a natural resources special permit application.
But that includes the fence, and it's kind of exercise of utility.
Well, it doesn't improve the style and design of the fence. location, doesn't approve height.
Aren't there wetlands on this land?
Yes, that's why it was
So,
a review by the-
but they're not flagged, are they flagged on the survey?
Yes, yep.
So I don't think we can really review it until we see the CBA determination.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to get a lot more background information on this, I think, before we can go forward.
Okay, so just so another quick question, would more planting on the outside of the given fence be something that you would recommend?
No, I wouldn't invest anything more in this.
No,
You're
I'm
like-
saying going forward as an opportunity, is that something that you would prescribe?
Well, first of all, we're not in a position really to sort of give you any direction in terms of what to do from this point on until we can reassess what's been done to date and have a better understanding of what approvals existed. This is not, I'm not trying to challenge your veracity, but we need to understand from the internal workings here, what the building department approved, what the zoning board of appeals approved, if you have a natural resources special permit, et cetera, and so forth, and get this all figured out. Before I would advise I wouldn't plant anything. I would invest in any landscaping until we can get this stuff cleared up. And I think you're going to have the survey updated, would be my sense.
It's pretty recent, I think.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Okay, so just one more question and then I'll
Yes.
go. So I know in the neighborhood that there are many homes with 6 foot or more high fences, and some of them are corner lots, and maybe everything is unique to every particular home. And I do notice that there are these shadow box fences. That's where I got the idea. However, there are bigger plantings in front of them, so that's why I asked you about more plantings. And so perhaps I do think it is fitting with the neighborhood. If we drive around, you would see that there are many fences in this condition. Maybe they're not up berms, but they are there.
I understand your point. It doesn't mean that those fences have approval. A lot of people build fences without approval, and they find out later that they're not, case in point, that they're not permitted. So it's not always, driving around the neighborhood can give you a flavor of it, but you don't know if those fences have been approved. And like as not, we would not approve them because those are very small lots down there. It's a small community, that was never meant to have these grand structures, supposed to be little beach houses, not anything of this sort. So we'll send you a follow-up letter. I think we've got some work to do on this. Everybody has some work to do on this before we can move forward with anything. Okay, but I would just hold on any planting. If it were me, I wouldn't buy anything more to put in the ground until you know what you may have to remove. Okay,
Thank you for your time.
you're so welcome.
Were
Okay,
you on the property when the CBA application was made?
Yes.
all right, great. Next up is Alan and Jeffrey Cohen, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-24-10-39. I see Shannon is here. Hi, Shannon. Esperanza, this is yours.
Yes.
Good afternoon. How are you? Good, how are you? Good.
So we had an application in fall last year, September, to legalize fences and gates at this property at 110 Kings Point Road. There is wire fencing at 6 feet, 2x4 wire fencing with 2-inch black posts along Kings Point Road and Tyrone Drive. This is a corner lot. So it has essentially 2 front yards. And we did detect that one portion, or you had actually depicted that on the submission, that one portion of that fencing required relocation to within the property line. There's also wooden fencing and a pedestrian gate perpendicular to Kings Point Road, which is this that you see in the picture that we're looking at now. These are 1x4 cedar boards with 1-inch spacing, and it was proposed to, I think, remove the top board to keep that fence to a maximum of 6 feet. There is a similarly designed pedestrian gate at Tyrone Drive where the wire fencing is. And to the northern property line, there is a stockade fence that has been installed between this home and the neighboring property. And that is with the nice side facing the neighbor. So, and that's is all existing. When we reviewed this, that's the stockade fencing. When we reviewed this, there was I think a general consensus that the appearance of the 6 foot or soon to be 6-foot wood fencing along or perpendicular to and along Kings Point Landing Road would be, or Kings Point Road would be, it was too opaque. And too tall. And so, Shannon, you've come back with a new proposal for at least the portion where that is perpendicular to Kings Point Road, which is replacing that wood fencing with 6-foot deer fencing. Yep. Wire fencing. And only the pedestrian gate would remain in the same wood design, correct, at a maximum of 6 feet. So, and to my knowledge, none of this work has been done.
Not yet, no.
Yeah. Okay.
But waiting for your guys' approval.
Okay. So,
and I just want to note with the wire fencing, they're proposing to do an evergreen shrub planted every 4 foot on center to soften it from the road so that it's not that stark wood fencing along the road anymore.
thank you. I did forget that detail. Thank you.
Here's this survey. Okay, so it's a corner lot. Did you have any other comments?
Nope, I mean, it's the same thing that we discussed last time. It's a
Right.
corner lot. Their pool is in their front yard on this side, and so they feel that the 6-foot fencing helps add a little bit of privacy to their pool, and they think that with the wire fencing, it won't be as much, and then the plants will grow through and would be more of a natural buffer to the community.
Okay. You think, Winnie?
Well, I'm just wondering, I mean, is there any reason if it's going to be planted that it has to be 6 feet as opposed to lower?
I think it's
just the deer thing.
It's the deer thing that we keep coming back to. I tried talking to them and they really feel that the 6 foot is important to them. I tried to talk to them about 5 and they weren't really amenable to that.
So you're gonna plant shrubbery against a 6-foot high stockade fence?
No,
The
wire.
Wire mesh,
Wire
yeah,
mesh
they're
so
gonna
that
put
it
a
can
deer
grow through.
fence, that
In the
wire
middle,
mesh,
yeah.
yeah, right.
That works.
Okay, does anybody else have anything they'd like to add, Mooney, or you?
No, if we could go back to the picture where this is being proposed, and that way we can take a look at that. I mean, I think it would be an improvement because as it is now, it does present a very, not that one, the one of the house, and it has the wood fencing on
There
that
you
one.
go.
One more,
There's no more, right?
that
That's
one.
it, yeah.
But in sort of conjunction, you see that there is the wood fencing between the house and the garage, and it extends to these, I guess that would be the southern property line. And then there's this other portion that you're proposing now to make it transparent or translucent with the deer fencing. I think it would make it better because as you approach this property, it really does present like a big wall. The other portion is going to remain. Is that over 6 feet? Would that be?
It'll have to be brought down to 6 feet for when we're at the building department. They won't approve.
Exactly.
Give us a CO at any point when the fence is over 6 feet, so that will be taken care of.
Okay.
And that's because that's considered a side yard, right?
But yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's not going to be.
Right, just for the
changed
public, I just
except
want to
for the
make
height.
sure, yeah, it's clear. It doesn't present like that as you're looking at this picture. So I just wanted to make sure that that was understood.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think 5 feet would be fine. I think 4 feet would be fine for this, but I will go with the consensus at this point because I think it's an improvement as far as.
Just an improvement. I'd still like to see that the stuff to the left of the house and by the garage a little more transparent, it could be a little less opaque.
Yeah, it just really does
yeah.
present like a wall.
It does, yeah. Because even though there are spaces between the boards, you can't really
It's
see
1
them.
inch. They're 1 inch
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah.
That's not very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk to them again about it,
Yeah.
but technically that one doesn't need
I
ARB
understand.
approval, but I will definitely
Thank you. We appreciate
pass the
that.
message
Yeah.
along to them.
Okay, but they do have to bring it down to 6 feet.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, Frank, did you have anything?
No.
Okay, Diane?
No, I think we
Covered it. Okay, Chip?
Nope.
All right.
And we're all fine with the pedestrian gate remaining there at 6 feet in the same design.
Yeah,
Also,
I mean, if it was, I'd prefer it were more transparent, but I don't think we have jurisdiction over it, so it has to be 6 feet.
the one on
Oh,
the,
the one on the right. Oh,
there's a pedestrian gate.
yeah, I forgot about that.
And there's one on the other side as well, which is the same.
Okay. I guess
So-
so. I mean,
It just to keep it in.
yeah,
the same-
consistent.
Consistent. Right,
Okay.
all right. Well, so
Thank you, guys.
I make a motion to approve the application as recently submitted.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good to
Thank you
go.
all.
Thanks,
Have a great
Shannon.
night.
All right, our agricultural overlay, number 7, Shoji 7 Town Line Road. Applicant tax map number 300-196-1-2.1. This is Will Manier. Is Mr. Manier here?
Yes.
Hi.
How are
You were behind the post. I couldn't see you.
Yes.
Okay, Diane, this is yours.
Yes,
Okey doke.
okay. This is an application to build a new house at 7 Town Line Road. And I would like to note that this would be, as you enter the town of East Hampton, this would be the first visible residential property that you would see. It's on the east side. Yeah, the east side, on the south side of the highway, but it's, there's an agricultural field adjacent to on the highway, and this would be the next property. It is
Can you enlarge that,
now
please? I'm sorry, I was just.
yes, it is now a very simple shingle house that is placed way to the back of the property. And of course, that's to be demolished. And this extravagant property, this modern property, was a very strong house, 8-bedroom house with a dog shower, bowling lanes, a jacuzzi room, 3-car garage, is to be erected. And behind that, a swimming pool, and behind that, a sunken tennis court. And beyond that, actually, the property is about 1.8 acres, and it's a narrow, long property, which has a 100-foot easement on its east border. So there's 100 feet between the tennis court, which means that the house is very close to Town Line Road. And I think with its very bold architecture, I think it's going to be very visible. Although, as you can see on the left of the house, there's a very thick, good old cedar hedge, which they intend to keep on both sides. It's not quite as thick on the south side, but this is a very large, a very imposing and aggressive kind of architecture in this neighborhood. Now, the house next door is still under construction. And I think we had some deliberations about that house. But actually, it sort of is dwarfed by this proposal. So, I mean, in the front, there are 24 windows, plus those 2 massive 24-foot high black louvered panels. And the height of the house is 1 1/8 inches less than what is allowable. It's 31 feet 10 7/8 inches. It all seems to be in keeping with what is allowed, but it is. I mean, I think it's the tipping point, and I think it's going to be very visible. So, Will, would you like to talk?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Afternoon, all. Will May, architect. I'm here with the owner to discuss with you and review with you our proposed application. So we are, as you mentioned, sort of on the edge of the ag reserve area. Across the street from us is the village of Sagaponack.
Right.
There is the farm field to the north of us, which is also the highway. We've placed very few windows on that elevation for two reasons. There's nothing to look at that way, and it's north. Behind us, where you can see just past the tree line, are 3 lots that are on Montauk Highway that I believe, according to the zoning map highlights, are also not in the agricultural overlay district. So to the east and the west of us is not agricultural overlay district. The north and the south of us are. As you mentioned, the south of us is a new house under construction. I was not able to get the exact square footage of that house, but I will.
It's not 8,000 square feet.
Do you know what it is?
I think it's 6.
I think it's 6 too.
Oh, okay. Okay. On the house, though, again, it's in the village, but to establish sort of character and what you see, there's a very large house, sort of, across the street and diagonally down from us, which is advertised at almost 12,000 square feet.
That's Sagaponack.
Yeah, that's Sagaponack. Yeah,
Different-
but that's
different
also,
rules.
that's what you experience, that's the character, that's the neighborhood.
This will be the first south of the highway house in East Hampton when you cross Town Line Road.
Exciting.
Yeah, I think, Will, for your own sake, you should not use the rules for Sagaponack and Southampton
Oh,
Township.
I'm not using any rules, I'm just
Well, that's
commenting.
not harmonious. We're not trying to harmonize with Sagaponack. Okay.
All right, point taken. So a little bit about the house. As you mentioned, the size, the idea, the party behind the house was a barn vernacular, if you will. I mean, something similar to this, connected with 3 sort of negative spaces, voids. As you mentioned, they are a darker color to sort of shadow and make them disappear a little bit. Materials of the house are mahogany. The state of the rendering, it's a little washed out, but they are intended to gray naturally. Minimal trim, if very, no fascias, no rakes, no trims on the windows. Roof is a standing seam metal roof, a dark metal roof.
It's better if it's bigger always, pretty much. Yeah, thank you.
So a standing seam metal roof. We'll also be able to hide the solar panels sort of in the spaces between the roof lines, so the solar panels won't be visible from anywhere else on the property. Pool, there is a small pool house in the back, 200 square feet with a little pergola as indicated. And a tennis court. There's as mentioned, there's an ag reserve or
Scenic easement.
Scenic easement as it's called. Behind the property, if I could comment to the setbacks, the required front yard setback for the zoning, which seems very small to me, is only 40 feet. So, and we are set back almost double that, 78 feet. So again, I think it's pretty accurate to the house next door relationship. They are set back much further, but we are almost double.
I have a question about the proposed tennis court. It looks like it's in the scenic easement.
Yes, it does.
No, if you look at this,
That's not the scenic easement line?
no, that's our pool enclosure line.
Okay.
Yeah,
So where is the scenic easement start?
behind the tennis court. There's a survey, both a site plan and a survey, which were the first couple of pages.
Can you pull that up, please, Julie?
So it is 1.89 acres, I believe. It's a pretty big lot. According to zoning, it's allowed a bigger house than this. We didn't, max. So you see that. So yeah, if you see that line, and there's a survey too from the survey. This is my site plan. If you want to actually refer to a survey.
Yes, please.
I have it here, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. If you zoom in, you'll see the line across the back of the tennis court, which is the line of the scenic easement.
Of the scenic easement.
Right, so the tennis court is directly
Yeah.
right on the scenic
Yeah, that's
easement.
the line. Yep.
Does it have to meet any setbacks,
setback
structural
from the scenic
setbacks from
easement?
the scenic easement?
All structures have to meet a setback of 10 feet, except for fences.
Correct.
Okay, so does this meet that setback?
Yes.
Okay,
Let me see, there's a dimension. Can't see it on the screen.
yeah, well,
Oh, the setbacks to the existing structure. So I'll just make sure that's 10 feet.
it looks like it is, but it's hard to say, yeah.
Yeah, the actual.
Which is the tennis court closer to their pool.
We have an original survey from the surveyor, which
Right.
So I'd love to hear from Frank and from Esperanza, who's so well versed in this neighborhood. And I think this house is too big. I just think it's
Okay, well, I'll start. I agree with you. One item of importance is that the survey indicates that it's Sagaponic. It says Sagaponic and it's misspelled. But
Here, thanks, Mike.
yeah,
This one here
Yeah, I think there was a typo on the first version.
and it's not even,
Which I
Sagaponic
caught,
isn't even
and that
spelled
was
correctly.
fixed. In fact, if you don't have that version, I'll get you that version.
Yeah, we don't have that version and it's, anyway, so it's, obviously got the land in the wrong town. So that needs to be addressed, but that's,
Yeah, that was corrected already.
yeah, no,
Apologize
I
for that.
understand. So we need that fixed. And the other thing that I think would be, I appreciate that you acknowledge that there are, that you answered question number 6. Are there any encumbrances of record in terms of the scenic easement? But if you have that documentation, it would be helpful for us to have that in the file.
Okay.
So we can, review, because sometimes when these lots were created, there were peculiarities, for certain setbacks, and some structures might be permitted and others not, and so on. So we just need to make sure we're following the original intent of the subdivision. But in terms of mass and scale and harmony, which is our basic responsibility. Could we just go back to to one of the elevations, maybe the front elevation? Yeah. I know those are windows, and maybe it's just my old eyes, but they appear, they're just big, they seem to be big voids to me, and they look like, I feel like the mass is accentuated by that.
The negative space in the middle?
Exactly, that the height of it makes it look like a 3-story building. I'm sure it's not, but it looks that way.
It's very, very high.
Yeah.
Very tall.
And I understand, that you have built out to every square inch that you're permitted here in terms of the height. But I think in terms of mass and scale, if you could bring those roof lines down and maybe do something to, it has a rather industrial look to me too, which may be what you're going for. But I don't know that that's harmonious with this area, with the ag overlay districts, have, and we're not, I want to acknowledge that, newer, more updated architecture is not a bad thing. We appreciate something new and interesting if we feel like it kind of works. But my personal take on this is that these just look really industrial to me, and I don't want to be insulting, but they look like garage bays to me, like the negative space almost looks like a big garage door. So I'm sure you intended something else, and I would ask you to take another pass at this and reduce the height, reduce the mass and scale. The fact that there are 3 of them in a row is also gives that front-facing elevation. There's a lot of mass that you're approaching. I appreciate very much that you doubled the front yard setback. I get that. And I recognize that you've kind of had to crunch everything in there because you have the easement in the back. So I appreciate that. But it just feels, it feels very industrial to me, very commercial and not residential. And it doesn't strike me as harmonious to what that area is like. And Diane makes a good point in that it's sort of the gateway to the community here. And we want, I mean, you've heard me read these things from these books. You've been here 100 times yourself, so we're trying to maintain that rural agricultural feel. And I say that, again, acknowledging that we're not going to abandon, it's not like you can't come in with a modern design, but it has to be something that feels like it works. And this one just doesn't feel that way to me.
Particularly its location, it's a very sensitive location.
Yes. Anyway.
So I'd like to say a few words about this. Massing and scale aside, I am actually going to be a bit of a dissenter here, it sounds like. I actually sort of appreciate certain moves that Will has made here, like the minimal roof fascia. There's sort of like an effort to make this pretty clean in terms of like a lack of a roof fascia, in terms of the lack of trim that you frankly see on more. One way to think about this is, I think if this were a white, or if this was a sheeter, if this were a cedar shingle gambrel roof house, this would just be massive. And I actually think that some moves here, like the black negative spaces Will is calling in between it, actually does somewhat visually reduce the mass and scale of it. It's not to say the mass and scale of this is not something we shouldn't talk about and perhaps object to. But I actually, and when this idea that something can't be sort of somewhat even industrial looking in an agricultural overlay, where traditionally agricultural barns are very utilitarian and made out of industrial materials, I don't object to that. I do have some comments about it. One is the overall siting. I think I'm suspecting that the board is, if you were to look at the overall site plan and the survey, that the placement of the house towards the street with a large backyard, particularly the space between the pool and the tennis court, I think it's probably not unreasonable for us to ask that the house be moved further back from the street, at least to be somewhat compatible with the house next to it. I've thought about the garage, whether the garage should be somewhat relocated to the side, relocated maybe even to the back, eliminated. It's hard for me to say, because if you eliminate the garage, then you might even have more of a mass in the of those 3 volumes. I think one place to start that would help is if we scroll down to the building section, which is probably around page 7 or 8. If there are, objections to the massing and scale of this, I think, how could we reduce the mass and scale of this house, and perhaps, still keep if you want to keep the architectural integrity of this. Maybe it's the next page or page 9, or I can't remember. Just keep scrolling down.
I go into plans.
Keep going. No, keep going down.
Okay.
Keep going.
Next one. Nope, so I won't hit that one.
No, or it could be that. So let's go to zoom a little and zoom to the left. Zoom in more. What I want to ask you about, which is the floor to ceiling heights of the of these rooms. So I know that the owner is surely asking you to have 11-foot ceilings on the first floor, 11-foot ceilings on the second floor. But if mass and scale of this building are going to be an issue, then one place I might suggest you look at is bringing down the overall height of the house by reducing, those are pretty roomy ceiling heights that are, and typically listen, it's subjective ceiling heights, but kind of a standard is 10-foot ceiling for a first floor is pretty generous, and 9 feet is a little more standard. And you have the ability to cathedral some ceilings on the second floor. So that's one place to start. I don't necessarily object to actually the size of the glazing on the first floor. I do think, let's go back to that front elevation rendering. I think if we're, let's go to the front of the house. Yeah. No, you had it.
Sorry.
It's okay. One more page before. Go up. Page 4. There you go. So I think if you were to reduce the ceiling height from 11 feet to 10 feet, you're going to be cutting 1 foot off of that big black break metal between the first and second floor, which would, I think, make this more palatable to the board. I actually think if we were to bring in the glazing, it's going to make the wood appear larger. That's just my opinion. So these are some my thoughts off of the bat. I mean, in general, we have a bit of a conflict here between zoning and what this board feels is conforms to the mass and scale of the neighborhood and the mass and scale of the context and the ag overlay. So those are my beginning comments.
Anybody else, Chip, you want to add anything?
Yeah, fascinated by Frank's comments relative to the earlier comments. I think the house is too close to the road. If you go down to the fork on this road and go to the left, I think it's Wainscott Hollow, there was a house that was built that sits right on the road and it's never set well. I mean, you could move this house back another 10, 15 feet and it would look a lot better, probably in line with the White House to the side. I don't like the garage bump out. I saw 1.5 garage, 1.5 bays are that bump out, and then there's 1.5 in the block of the house. I think the thing would look better if you didn't have that bump out and maybe just end up with a 2-car garage. And I think Frank's point of lowering the ceilings would help tremendously and bring these joiners down so they're not so domineering. That's it.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear everyone's comments. I'm agreeing completely with setting it back farther from the road. Because as Diane pointed out, and we didn't look at those pictures, I don't think the existing house is all the way back, presumably just, I don't know.
I took
advantage of the
pictures of the existing property.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting just to see it.
I think it would be good. So yes, to reducing the ceiling heights.
That's standing on the front porch of the house, looking to the road, and that's the expanse that you see now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the side of the house where the scenic easement is to the, when you arrive in East Hampton. I mean, that's what you see now.
Mm-hmm.
So this couldn't be more different, and not necessarily, I wouldn't expect it to be the same, but it just totally, the rural nature that is just vanished, has just vanished, and there seems to be no consideration for what is and what has been and what might be. I just think it's too much.
Yeah, it doesn't really go with the, as it says in the code, the essential character of East Hampton, of the area. I don't entirely disagree with Frank and his evaluation, in the comparison and your intention of emulating barns. But then I agree with Kathy as well, that there's just a starkness to this that I think is accentuated by the massing of it. I'm looking at this existing house and I kind of see an echo of what you are designing, interestingly. But it just recedes into this property, whereas this is just going to come right into your face. And so
I wouldn't dislike it so much if it had room around it and if
Exactly.
it was in a different place. It's just, I think it's such a sensitive place, and it really sets a new standard,
Is there any way to swing one of the gables to the side? To like make
In a
it
way
so
like
like this,
this.
there are two gables are facing, that's sort of what gave me the idea to, to pull one of these like sideways, perpendicular to the, because you have, it's a narrow lot, and I think that's part of where the massing and the scale is feels overwhelming because there's not a lot of room. I think Diane was just alluding to that there's not a lot of room around it, but if there was some way to, again, I agree with Frank's assessment that you've got really high ceilings, and you could you could have a room that is livable with 9-foot ceilings or 10 at the max. I would ask you to bring it down to 9 because I think 8-foot ceilings are typical. But anyway, and try that, and then maybe see if there's some way to bring one of those, I don't know what to call them. They look like bays to me, to turn it sideways, and then center the building a little more in the middle of the lot. So there would be a little more side yard.
I just think a reduction in the
massing would help. Yeah. But there's a way to,
actually.
I agree. No, I think it should be brought down by a couple thousand square feet if you can do it. But if the footprint is important, I think some of the massing can be reduced by the reduction in height, as Frank suggested. There's some way to reconfigure the floor plan in some way so that it's
I mean, I will say that like 1.8 acres is a large, the owner of this property is quite lucky to have that big of a lot. I realize part of it's an easement in the back, but it's very spacious, and it's all just been, if you were just sort of look at this as like a block on the lot, it's like it's all been put into one block, like right near the front. And I understand everybody wants to maximize their backyard, but
pushing
it has the feeling like it's being done at the expense of like the rural nature of that lot.
I think it looks more Old Westbury than Old East Hampton. Modern houses going up on either sides of the LIE around Old Westbury feel more like this, scrunched into a development lot almost. And it needs to feel more spacious. It does not feel spacious in terms of the grounds.
Right. I know,
House is
more
probably
open vista, you mean.
The house is tremendously spacious, and that's the problem.
Yeah, because it gobbles up the whole property. Yeah.
So they're actually, I mean, I would say what I was saying is that I think there are ways to actually fit an 8,000 square foot house on this huge lot that wouldn't perhaps be so imposing from the street. You have so much room to play with.
Turn it sideways.
And moving the house back, definitely, I think that's a feasible idea. If I could make a couple of comments. Sure. Ceiling height we'll discuss. I mean, I've already sort of set the first floor into the foundation. which again
You
eliminated some
practiced that
play.
once already.
Yes, I pulled that one once already. The house is centered on the lot, which I'm a little, if the rendering is incorrect or not, but if you actually look at the surveys and site plans, it's within a foot of the house being centered on the lot. So I'm not sure if it's because all the landscaping is on one side of the property or the other, that's maybe throwing that off. But if you look at the dimensions, the house
I
is
think
pretty
that's the
centered.
problem I have with it, is that it is centered on the lot.
Oh,
And-
okay.
And so it just, because it is such a long, narrow lot, right now you see this beautiful, just open space. This is just going to, create one big monolith in the middle of the property.
Okay.
And I have a question too. The garage is in this, the garage is to the right of it or to the left?
That's the edge of the house, the garage.
It's a garage, right? So right there.
This line right here is the edge of the garage. The
Okay, I
garage
thought this
is
whole
in
space was garage. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah. Couple other comments, if I could. I just lost my train of thought here. Landscaping. So if you see intentionally the opening, so we don't want to see the highway as much as no one wants to see the property. And I know landscaping and whatnot, but that side of the house will be buffered. The front, if you go back to the site plan, the front, we're closing up the existing driveway, which sort of gives the first glimpse into the house from town line or coming from the highway, and move the driveway to the other side of the property. So when you turn down the street, you'll see a line of hedge. You have to actually look backwards as you drive past the house to look up the driveway to see that.
Right, well, that's also a design feature we're trying to avoid is, having the hedges prevent the vista. So I understand what you were trying to achieve with that. I understand that, but it's the whole concept of everyone trying to buffer themselves from the vista or from the road or this or that creates this walled-in feeling. And I just read from the code about fences and berms and so on. And it's the same applies, to this, and particularly in the ag overlay where the vista is something that we're charged with trying to maintain. So I think the advice to push it back, and I would say, maybe swing the whole house. I don't know, but narrowing it, the way it's sitting in the center of the lot, which makes perfect sense. It's a very logical approach. I'm not challenging that, but it's broad and it just prevents seeing anything beyond it. And that's part of what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be minimizing those impacts on the vistas of these ag overlay lands. And the surround, what's around them too. Just the fact that there's a hedge is convenient, an existing hedge, but we can't just, the code does not direct us to plant around every building that's there, so it can't be seen from here or there, else would just be in little cubicles.
So will that line of pine trees on the left side of the house, right? There's a very large row.
Yeah, it's existing. I guess my point was that's all, that buffer is existing. We were filling in the current driveway.
Are those trees relative to the height of this house?
Oh, tower.
The trees tower over the
It doesn't
house?
appear that way in the rendering,
Yeah,
but
they're big. Look at that. They're monster trees. They're
On the left, we're looking at those.
I think they're probably.
that's the left, that's the north side, and this is
Yeah.
town line side.
Yeah.
I 40 feet if I had to guess. They're up there.
And they're healthy?
They're thinning out a little bit down low. As trees do. But if they're maintained and you plant in front of them, the idea is again, that will be maintained.
So that's them right there by the car.
Yeah.
Correct. That's them. But yeah, so that's from the property looking back to town line, and that was the north property line. So, yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right. I have an idea, maybe the center gable. If it were a two gabled house and the center gable becomes more of the flat element, how would you feel about that approach? It's just a bigger flat,
like a big
box,
a big connector. In the middle.
As opposed to these little ones.
I think
that's kind of what the house next door has done. And frankly, to me, that house is very imposing.
Oh, that's next door, but they have a pitch roof. I'm talking about keeping it
flat in the middle.
Well, yes, I understand that, but to me, that doesn't even make any difference. It's just going to be as,
the width doesn't change. It's just the mass in the center.
It would
mass
reduce
goes
the
away.
mass.
Oh, yeah.
I guess. It wouldn't be coming at you.
as much, right? But it's still the,
It's the width.
yeah, I
right.
think the width, and if you take that center, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I think maybe the thing to do is to, if you can provide us with a couple of sketches instead of going through this whole, like, I don't want you to spend time and resources and fleshing out the entire thing, but come back with a couple of other proposals.
Yeah, I can show you
You
some
know.
massing without color
Yes,
and materials,
yes,
just to give you a
yes,
sense of.
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest issue right now, is just the size, the mass and scale.
And the relationship to the road.
And the-
Yeah,
Exactly.
pushing it back, I mean, I don't see an objection with it. I mean, we have the
Yeah.
yard next to the tennis court, which could be the yard.
Yep.
And we'll have less between the pool and the tennis court. So I'll talk to
Okay.
the owner, but I don't see that being an issue.
Okay.
And-
For the tennis court, there normally be a enclosure around most tennis courts?
Yeah, if you go to the rear, it's sunken. I think we're missing a gate. It's a sunken tennis
Oh,
court.
okay.
Where am I going?
Right there, back one more. Yeah, so there is an enclosure on the court. It's sunken. I guess we're missing a gate right there to sort of separate it to the pool. But yeah, there is an enclosure on the court. And I'll detail these fences more. These are accurate. There's two types of fences. There's an open mesh for the deer fence, and then around the tennis court, it's going to be that wood and mesh
That
fence.
seems
Yeah.
nice. Looks better from the back.
They always do.
Well, it's the distance too,
Yeah.
you're further
I
away from
guess
the.
too, because there's more green,
That's the rendering.
The front,
Yeah.
the front, the front, there is, there's no distance really. So,
Oh,
All right, yeah. Appreciate all your comments.
all right. Okay, good. Well, we'll look forward to your next submission. Thank you. Okay, number 8, 2 Old House Lane LLC, Suffolk County Tax Act number 300-159-1-3.1. Yanislaw and Nina Maleshchik. I got that right?
Yes. Tongue twister.
Okay. Now, you're not the man who yelled at our Julie, are you?
Excuse me?
Did you yell at our Julie? Are you the man who yelled at our Julie?
Not at all.
Okay, all right. 'Cause Someone yelled at Julie and I'm not happy about it.
I'm not.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this is chips. The way this works is the member on the board will review it and then we'll ask, you can make any comments, or I'm sure you've seen now, sitting through the whole meeting.
Sure.
I'll let the questions, if you have any questions. Okay. Chip.
Okay, so this is an application to extensively renovate a quite dilapidated house on a 1 acre on a flag lot off a small cul-de-sac on the west side of Roberts Lane between Long Lane and Cedar Street. We've looked at this neighborhood many times, though, on the other side. Though it is coming to us for approval as an agricultural overlay, it is far from any open fields, and the property is mostly wooded around the perimeter. There's a 50-foot scenic easement between the house that has a mix of behind the house that has a mix of vegetation and trees that heads out towards Cedar Street. The proposed external changes include reshingling the exterior facade with pre-finished gray shingles, a new roof in Alaskan yellow cedar, new fascias and soffits, new windows and doors in a more modern style, redesigned gunite pool, new outdoor wood-burning fireplace, new railings on the second floor, modified existing deer fences, and new exterior lighting, which appears to be dark sky compliant. Overall, this is a win-win. This house is in need of a lot of attention. It's shocking that a 20 or 30-year-old house could be in this condition, but it is. But I think it would be what they're proposing is a huge plus for the neighborhood.
Okay, so would you like to take us through the application? I mean, what are the proposed changes? It was a little,
I just read them.
yeah, okay, all right, all right.
It's the whole.
Do we have
it's
to-
It's just sort of an exterior renovation.
It's- well,
without
interior,
any
yeah.
addition.
Yes.
I mean,
No
our
addition.
concern, the interior is not our concern,
Right.
but there's no addition and there's no.
You're not adding any
So we're keeping the
footprint
current
as it is.
footprint
Yeah.
what it is. What we're adding balconies.
I'm sorry, you're adding?
Balcony.
Balconies in the top, and there will be, sometimes there'll be like overhang underneath.
Like a covered porch?
Yes, this only what we do in the back of the house.
Yeah.
And
Do
the
we
house
have-
is not visible from the street completely.
It's down a long cul-de-sac driveway, and it's down a long flag lot driveway, which is off a very small cul-de-sac. You have to really look for this house
Can you
to
pull up
find
the
it.
pictures, please, Julie?
Are there architectural drawings of these proposed changes?
Extensive architectural drawings.
Of what's existing and what's proposed?
Well, I didn't find the architectural drawings.
They are architectural drawings and basically showing what we're changing there, what is stay existing and what we're changing.
Yeah.
I have it existing drawings in a card if you guys want it from the existing house from 1998. I can bring it right now. We have it here.
No,
If you want to look it up.
Here.
390 special.
Right, okay, so so they're changing the roof line.
Some changes, the roof line, some dormers and things like
Yes.
that. A new window.
But the height stay the same. We'll just leave it little because we could put the bigger doors instead of the windows in the second floor from the bedrooms. Then you have access to the decking.
Yeah, in the back.
Then we lift it, the sides of it, but the top of the house stay the same height.
So do you guys have the pictures? How about the pictures are going to show more
So,
Yeah, we have their elevations.
so like the overhangs are going to be removed.
in the back? They're going to change. So this is the
In the
front.
drawings, so there was elevation in the drawings.
This is the front door in the center. That's the garage to the right. You can't tell, but the roof is almost not there. It's all
Yeah,
deteriorated.
it's.
So this is the back. The deck stays there.
No, we want to replace with the
Would you
concrete.
please, Julie?
Oh, the concrete pad,
Yes, we
yeah.
want to put the concrete, polished concrete in the outside.
And you're going to change some of the windows and the dormers.
We changing all of them.
Yes.
We changing all of them.
You're changing the color, did you
No,
say?
changing
We want to put the.
these,
Oh, changing all of them.
These
Gotcha.
So
doors.
they're just
Changing
three
all.
Yeah, yeah.
divided?
yes.
The roof will be with the Alaskan yellow cedar
Okay.
and walls will be with refinish.
Gray shingles.
It's not gray, it's like
Silver.
between gray, bright gray and white. It's not white, but it's not gray. And black windows.
Okay, this all sounds pretty good. I just, do we have proposed drawings? To me,
Yes.
this is kind of sounding like a first-year architectural review where we're talking a lot about stuff.
No, we have
See anything
the
on the wall.
drawings. That's the drawings done by the architect.
I have the drawings here, Frank.
Drawings, Frank, on the screen.
That's the, okay. So
This is proposed or as built?
This is proposed.
Proposed.
So that's the back of the house with some dormer changes.
That's the front.
There are hashed
That's the front of
lines
the
that
house?
Yes,
show the
that's That's
changes.
the front of the house. This however, right now, the balcony in the top is round one, then we change it for square, which is also a little bit
So
square the
did
house.
you put these hash marks on there? Or did an architect do that?
That's all
So the
architect.
Okay.
This drawing.
I'm just used to seeing, like existing proposed. And so maybe it's hard to do this on maybe they're both there. And I just, sorry.
It's, the structure of the house is stay exactly the same. It's
Yeah.
only between, when you come back, you can go a little bit down, scroll down.
Sorry,
It's okay.
I don't know which one, that
This
one?
part, yeah, this part, hold on, this is leading through, this part right now, it's not connected between these two structures. It's was dormer in the middle. Then
So you're
it's extended
proposing to connect those two that.
Yeah,
the
it's existing, if
main-
you go in the pictures, it's there, it's the roof, we lifted up the roof here.
It's
I
really
think
hard
that
to
the
tell
problem
this.
that we have is that generally we get existing and then proposed would be sort of drawn in or, sort of on the top is existing and on the bottom is what is proposed, so we can actually see.
Or it can be overlaid like this,
Right.
but usually it's bubbled out in another color, so it's easier to detect. It's hard to see it like this because it's all the same color.
And also, this is all that's proposed, it's hard to really see
Well, he
what
showed
was
us.
existing.
Julie, can you bring up a picture of the back of the house? Because this, what it looks like now, and then you'll see. It's got the thing with the deck on it.
So
Right.
it's expand, it must be
Back, okay, so there we are.
by some amount.
No,
Doesn't
not the
say.
footprint.
Yeah, right, the
Like
square
you see
footage.
here between, it's nothing there, that will be
You
connected,
join that.
and that will be added door and the balcony going there and that.
So it's just on the second floor, or is
Yes.
there a space between those? It's all part
On
of
the second floor.
Yes,
It's
it's the
all-
second floor. I get it. Okay.
And right now it's a bedroom there, anyway, you just want to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It doesn't matter really. I just wanted to. That I understand. And the windows will be a replacement in kind? It'll
No,
be-
no.
It's different.
These modern windows, they're like French windows.
Oh, I see.
But we're keeping, the lines,
Yeah.
keep it a little bit more, not so modern, to keep it a little bit.
Yeah, but it's sort of French windows.
Yes.
Yes. I have some pictures also, I don't know if that's helpful of what.
Are there
we intend.
renderings? Do you have?
They're
No, not really, not the house, but what we're
What
looking
we
for.
intend for the home to
Oh.
look like.
Oh, let's see.
When it's complete. White colored.
So this is
shingle.
your inspiration?
Yes.
So I'm not wrong when I say that you're removing the overhangs.
Yes, we'll square them up.
It all sounds fairly reasonable. I just, maybe it's because I just don't have anything in my hands that I don't.
Yeah, the plans, I don't.
I need like some concrete drawings.
Okay.
I have it existing drawings, like in the car here. If you guys-
No, that's okay. I mean, the thing is, we usually don't take submissions at the meeting.
Okay.
Because this is part of a public process and everything that we show on the smart board, people actually watch these things.
Okay.
So, we want everyone to have the same information at the same time.
Right.
And we also want the benefit of, review before the meeting. So we're not making a decision right in the moment,
This isn't, what is this?
These are just inspirations.
Oh, inspiration.
Yeah, so they're not
It's like-
renderings. And see, normally what we do, if you saw what we were looking at just prior, is we get photo renderings or,
Would that be more helpful
Yeah.
to have?
Yes. that and having the existing and the proposed on the same page.
Right, do we have an
Because it's
example?
difficult to really visualize this otherwise. I mean, Frank probably can much more easily than we can.
Okay.
Not right now.
Is also.
Not right now, sorry.
Survey is also hands.
We apologize.
We'll take architect from here. I just want to make sure the
It's like gravel
That's where
and
the
blue,
fencing
it's
and stuff.
stuff
I understand.
Woodgate.
Yes.
All the way.
Proposal.
None of this is,
we have a proposal. And the existing, they can see the same phase, you can see it exactly how it is.
Okay.
Construction.
Okay, well, we should deal with that.
Put it existing house and just place it.
Well, it says they're revising the deer fencing, but I don't have any.
Okay, well,
No details.
right, well, we should make sure they understand. We should also get the,
Deal with the house first and
Yeah,
then
that's my-
fencing
that was
is a
my
whole
view.
separate.
But the
Right,
fencing,
but
like you
if
said, it's existing right now and it's going, like you see in a survey, is going through the easement.
Yeah,
Wants to remove that and keep it easement empty and just push back, then become the same way, protect for the pool, right? The 1-inch mesh, and we do only metal, what do you call this? The mesh fencing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we would like to put some, gates next to the house, then you can go in it.
pedestrian gates.
Yeah, in a one side of by the garage, when I mark it up in brown, and by the driveway when you're going to the other side of the house. I would like to put small gate, and you can open and go through it from the front of the house to the back.
well, generally speaking, I think most of us are, I'm reasonably inclined toward this. I don't have quite a good enough idea of what the windows are gonna look like, which is.
Maybe a,
So
You
the
could use a
the
spec.
thin frame,
Oh, I have-
wide casement
I have.
windows,
If you go in
sort of like chateau windows.
yeah, if you go, they pretty much they will look exactly like you see in the drawings. There would be just black windows with the, like the French, with the
Right.
Did you
vertical.
submit a specification sheet? I think.
no, I have shingles, I have lighting, I don't have. other windows.
I know it's
It's a
notated
little
on the plans, but I don't.
Anders on the, it is also E-series, right?
Anderson E series.
Yeah, I saw that, but it's.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
I don't know what those look
yeah, we
like.
don't want, yeah, we just need to see what they look like, because that's part of our evaluation is whether we feel like it fits. I mean, I suspect it does, but without knowing what it looks like, it's hard for us to say with certainty.
Well, I'm just looking at total proposed and existing GFA. And I was just wondering with the adjustments that you're doing, is that not increasing on the second story?
It sounds like you're going to be increasing by not that much.
Not much, but not much,
It's,
but it would have to
we
be
just-
reflected.
Basically, we're just, they're showing there, it's just showing the old walls and the new, but I
Right,
know
I
it's difficult to
understand.
read.
But the calculations need to be reflected on your plans. We need to know existing is X.
I think so, if you have it in the bottom of the drawing, they're showing the new square footage and all, I believe
Right.
so.
But we can't,
Here's another way of explaining how the process works, is that we basically need you to submit what is gonna basically go to the East Hampton Building Department for a permit, which is to a level of specificity and drawings and accuracy and calling out heights and things like that, and square footage breakdown. They give that to us.
The square footage is there in the drawing showing existing and proposed. If you go in a drawings, in the bottom of the drawings,
Yeah.
for example, that's the A3 page, and if you go to the down, then you saw how much is now existing and how much is proposed, and how much we're adding. It's exactly same there.
We have all different sorts of numbers.
yeah, we're having a little complication here because,
Can we put in the screen?
Yeah,
That's,
no, so I'm looking at
the drawings.
The drawings say the house is 3,405 square feet. The garage, 675 square feet. And so total 4,080. And then on the application, the house, it says 4,405 for only the house. So that's a big difference.
and the garage is 675 and
That's
the porches are 830.
I think it's including a finished basement.
Well,
Here, right?
this.
Perhaps.
And the existing coverage on the survey says it's 3,838. So the numbers are pretty different, right? I mean, if it was just a couple hundred square feet, I could sort of understand that, but in one instance, well, it's almost 1,000. if you go
First floor,
there.
Well, no, no.
Well,
first
existing-
floor existing.
Oh, building.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know where I'm at.
It's late,
But
but
it's
what-
None of the numbers are there in the neighborhood, but they're not the same numbers. I mean, they should be exact
Existing
numbers,
first
is all
floor,
I'm saying, you know, the
2,400
numbers are
square
numbers,
feet,
it's
second
not.
floor
Right.
1,800,
Yeah.
total 4,200, right? And we're adding proposed 200 square feet in the second floor, right? And it's total 2,005 square feet instead 1,805. And you're showing if this is the proposed how many square feet we're adding, the porch and the square footage of the first and
Where
second
is
floor.
that?
So what we would need to have is an updated survey that reflects.
Yeah, the coverage calculations on your survey say existing building coverage is 3,838 square feet, and the proposed is 4,353. So they're not comporting, you know, they have to be the same numbers. You know, it's not like, I don't want to sound flip, I don't care if it, you know, I mean, it's 4,500 is fine, but they have to be the same, that, you know, because these are records that the town keeps. And when you go to get a building permit, they're gonna want precise measurements, and when they go to give you a certificate of occupancy, they're gonna measure, and it's gotta be the same. So we've gotta sort that out, you know? Okay, so I think that.
You need to come back with photo images of what the house is going to look like.
Renderings. Understand what that is, you know, just if you can just impose over the existing thing, and even the drawings, it would help us, I think, to have.
Changes.
Right, the changes bubbled out in a different color ink.
I understand what you mean.
You know, that way we can tell it apart from what's there, because now we're looking for little hash marks and they're kind of small,
I
you know,
understand.
to look at.
So basically, you want to color drawings and it's showing
Yeah,
you
it
exactly
makes
what
it-
is
yeah,
the
it makes
changes,
it
what
so
is
much
the existing
easier.
walls.
Yes.
It's there, but it's very, I understand. It's a
Right,
dark
it's
wall,
hard to
it's a new one, light
You're
one.
familiar with it.
I
Right,
understand.
right, but, and then,
Yeah,
and then just make sure that all your coverage calculations are compatible. It has to be compatible on the survey, on your plans, and on your application, because your application says 4,405 just for the house. And then with the, I mean, that brings you well over But the porch is that, you're close to 7,000 square feet there, and that's not indicated on the survey in terms of building coverage. So that all has to, it's just all gotta be, gotta be the same. Right, yeah.
Be the lot coverage.
Okay?
I want to add the comment about the renderings, which is what we would like to see is a better visual representation of the proposed changes compared with the existing. Sometimes that can be done in 2 dimensions. Sometimes that can be done in a 3 dimensions. So if rendering is, I'm speaking, I do not need to see a rendering, and I don't think that we should impose that, like the architect would need to build a 3D visual representation of this.
No.
It just needs to, whatever is submitted to us, you have some flexibility in layaway of this. It's just, it has to be, presented to us that there's some clarity about what's existing and proposed, and there's a level of specificity about what's being proposed. And however you want to do that, that's at your liberty.
Yeah, and the specificity could include the dimensions, so that the calculations of the square feet, that space between those 2 gables that you're gonna close in, just say what the dimensions of those are. That should be, on the plans in a way that we can read separate from the rest of it. And you could even have a little total thing like you showed us on the other image, existing, proposed.
Okay.
Okay.
We might put up the inner colors and we'll indicate that which color is existing, which color is proposed.
Yeah, and we'll send you a follow-up letter with, a little bit of a to-do list for you.
Thank you.
We do that with everybody because it's so hard to get all this stuff. And then
would it be useful also regarding the materials? We need a specification.
I have it.
You have it.
I can add the windows if you guys want, that's fine.
Well, I was just gonna ask.
I have it.
The windows?
I don't have the windows, but I have
Okay.
the.
Everything else we have, but we could use it.
Would the second floor decking also be included in the square footage?
It's showing them.
Oh,
It's a porch, it's other porch from 200 to 700, he's showing.
The thing we also need is an image of the windows. You have to give us a spec sheet for the, so we can see what it looks like. Anderson will have a cut sheet for you. You can just show that to us, and that way we'll be able to actually visualize that window in place of the ones that you're currently have.
And doors.
Yeah, doors too, if you have doors also.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you gave us the lighting, but windows and doors also. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise, I think you're getting good shape. I think you've got generally positive feedback from us, but you've got a lot of administrative details to take care of here before we can really move you forward. Okay.
sounds good.
All right, great.
Just quick question, how's the process now with, if you send us the follow-up letters?
We'll send you the follow-up letter, and then you'll resubmit all the things that we've asked you to do, which probably includes a new survey and these coverage calculations and so on. And once you resubmit, we'll get you on an agenda as soon as practicable.
Okay.
Okay?
Any commentary on the gating, fencing at all?
We didn't get to
Well, we
that.
didn't get to that, but you have fencing in the easement that I don't think is permitted, but
He said.
He wants to take it out. That's what
Are
he
you
said.
gonna remove it?
He
Okay,
wants
well,
to
that's
remove it and bring it to the line when I indicate it with the yellow, and that will
right.
be,
And what
Full fence.
it would be good for us to have a copy of that the easement language so that we can compare it to what exists, because sometimes, people infringe on these easements, and that's good to know. That's great. But that's one area of the survey that has to be addressed, because you won't be able to get a CO or so on unless your easement permits a fence. Occasionally they do. So we need to see the language of the easement to know.
Okay.
And on gates, if it's 4 feet or lower, we don't care. We don't
Right.
want to know about it. If it's between 4 and 6 feet, which is sort of where we look at, the lower the better.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And as transparent as possible. You probably heard me read that business
Yes.
about gates and berms. We're trying not to get a walled in look, particularly in ag overlay communities where the vista is a public asset. It's not.
Yeah, but like the neighbors, both sides, basically you have a 6-foot wood fencing vertical with no visibility.
That's
right?
unfortunate.
That's what they have at both sides.
Yeah.
And basically, if you look it up from, I don't know, that would be south side. That's from neighbor completely is blocked with the.
Yeah, that's no
wood fence.
good. And probably not an approved fence would be my guess.
But
So-
that's why I say We want to just do the mesh anyway.
No, that'd be great.
It's
We
nothing,
appreciate
we
your
don't want to
aesthetic.
close like
Yes.
anything, just little gate, then we can go access to the.
Good
to the
on
lot.
you. Thank you. We appreciate that aesthetic, but just, we'll send you the follow-up letter and then you'll have, you've got some homework to do for us and then we'll get you back on as soon as we can.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You have a good evening.
Okay.
All right, next up is number 9, issuance of certificates of occupancy. Eves Estelle, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-202-1-4.1. I have Diane and Esperanza on this one. I don't know why. One of you must have covered.
I
the other
covered at one point, yeah.
Well, it's the other end of town line.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Exact opposite, instead of the first residence, it's the ocean, the last residence on town line, and it is an absolutely gorgeous, tasteful,
How nice.
discreet property, but it's not, the construction is not finished.
Oh, okay.
There's still that stairway is a working workman's stairway, and it, so I think.
And the windows aren't in, if
The
there's
windows
a
aren't
window.
in. So I think in order to take it one step further.
As you see in the photograph here. And it would be 15 feet, 3 inches wide. And I did measure, 15 feet, I think 4 inches wide. I measured between the pillars, 15 feet, 3 inches. And at the maximum, with the grade, depending, it was 5 feet, 5 inches. And it could have been, just because of where the ground went. So at the center of the gate panels, it is 5 feet, 4 inches on the nose. The slats are 5 inches, the frame's 5 inches, it's 4 inches from the ground. And it gives the sense of a great proximity to the road. But as if you all recall, that was due to the fact that there are wetlands flagged in this property and the gate had to be placed at a minimum of 100 feet from that. And it is 100.3 feet from the flagged wetlands, and actually 10.3 feet from the front property line. So what I measured was 23 feet from the road, from the edge of road. So I think it's, all in all, it conforms to the resolution. So I would make a motion to instruct staff to inform the building department that the applicant has satisfied the conditions of the ARB approval and a certificate of occupancy can be issued.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. All right, the next and last item is Stanzion Greenberg, Suffolk County Tax Act number 300-159-4-3. And Diane, this is yours.
Yes, this is a resolution from 2019 that clearly states that the removal of the 8-inch spheres on the pillars on both gates and the posts be reduced to 5 foot 4 inches. Neither the spheres have been removed nor have the pillars been reduced. It calls for white paint in the resolution, but they've painted it gray to match the house, which actually makes it recede and looks better. But they haven't at all complied with the pillar pillar requirement on the resolution, so I don't see how we can grant this.
Okay, well, thank you for your careful review. And we'll just have to have them come back to us again. I would recommend that people read their resolutions before they ask for a C of O. That would be helpful. Okay, and now tonight we're going to be signing 4 resolutions. Ocean Surf, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-50-1-27.1. SHM Star Island LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-6-4-9. Tony and Claire Florence modification for Pool House A, Suffolk County Tax Map number 189-3-7.2. And Tony and Claire Florence Pool House B, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-189-3-7.2. Okay, so I think we're done with our business. I just want to again thank our dear Eric and wish him well on his new venture. We'll come down to Atlantic Avenue and haunt you because it's such a nice building. You're really having an upgrade in office, I must tell you. I'm sure you know that. go down for a dip on a hot day. Anyway, and thanks to Julie for covering as much as she's done. It's been a wild times here at Fremont High, so we're hanging in. Anyway, thanks to this board, thanks to the planning department, and may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
All right, second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, we're out of here. Good night, everyone.